Hi, my name is Ben Lewis, and today I'll be discussing deception in our interactions. I'll be talking about how demeanor will affect how likely we are to be deceived, and I'll talk about a specific nonverbal way in which we can be deceived. I'll talk about how we're not very good at understanding deception, and how, as a result, deception has become a big part of our lives. Now, the demeanor of others is what is going to make us more or less likely to believe someone. The more honest they appear, the more likely we are to believe them. However, if we know that somebody is dishonest by nature, even though their words may sound honest, we will still be less likely to believe them, and therefore more likely to call out their deception. Now, an honest demeanor is defined as a sender attribute, even though its impact is assessed through the observations and judgments of message recipients. What this means is that though it's a personal trait, the success of it is determined by the other party, the person that is being deceived. This understanding has led to better testing as to how good we are at deceiving, because it allows us to create more variable when testing, which allows for a better baseline to be created. Now, one way in which we can be deceived is a false Duchenne smile. Now, a Duchenne smile is a smile that reaches both the mouth and the eyes, and it creates these crow lines. Now, typically, a Duchenne smile is regarded to be a spontaneous event, and it's meant to be a response to joy or something that just makes us feel happy. However, in 2010, it was finally determined that people are able to willfully create a Duchenne smile, and some people will even do so without being prompted to. Now, a spontaneous Duchenne smile will more likely be regarded positively than a forced Duchenne smile, but both Duchenne smiles will always be regarded as more positively than a non-Duchenne smile, or a smile that only reaches the mouth and not the eyes. Now, because of things like the Duchenne smile and the demeanor of others, we are not very good at recognizing deception. According to a 2006 study, people are generally able to detect deception 54% of the time. This is only slightly above the percentage of chance, 50% right, 50% wrong. Now, the research of the last 40 years has led up to support this finding of 54%. It's been constant throughout that period of time. Now, one way in which we can still determine deception is through something called leakage. And leakage is when a deceiver tries to control their behavior so as to not seem deceptive, but it's nonverbal cues that they can't hide. Now, the more aroused a state they are in, or the more stressed they are by the lie, the more leakage there is, and the more likely we are to detect the deception. Now, especially because we can often get away with it, deception has become an integral part of our lives. About 25% of our interactions are acts of deceptions, according to a study in 2008. Now, as multimedia communication has become more common and less desynchronous from communication in person, our deceptions have adapted to fit this. What this means is that throughout the years, as we've gotten more and more used to interaction not in person, with the development of the telephone and then beyond that, internet, texting, all this, our ability to deceive has gradually morphed and has become more adapted to this multimedia platform of lying. Now, this doesn't mean that we've gotten more likely to lie. This number still rests at about 25% of our interactions. What it does mean is that we've managed to keep a constant while adapting to this new technology and new forms of communication. We've adapted our demeanor, and we've come up with new versions of the Duchenne smile, for example, by being able to deceive others through multimedia communication and not in person. Some would argue that communication not in person makes it easier to deceive. Someone would argue that it makes it less. There's little evidence at this time to support either one, as this method of communication has not been around for that long. Now, as we continue to incorporate multimedia interaction in our daily lives, it is most likely that we will continue around this 25% mark of our daily interactions. There's little indicator to make us think that this will increase or decrease by any notable amount, perhaps a percent or two, but not by a huge amount. So as I've discussed, as a result of our ability to deceive others with relative ease, we've incorporated deception into our lives. We've learned how to change our demeanor both in person and through multimedia, as well as to use things like the Duchenne smile to give people a false perception of what we are feeling and what we are intending. As a result of our ability to constantly get away with deception, we've continued to incorporate it into our lives, even though we've not increased that percentage in many, many years.